I'm very happy to welcome you today. I have the privilege of being the president of the OC Forum Board of Directors, and this is one of our favorite programs of the year. I think it's probably some of your favorite programs of the year, so thank you for coming. As you know, with OC Forum, we like to encourage conversation about interesting topics, relevant topics of the day. I know that many of you have been to some of our programs. Um, and sometimes we like to introduce topics that'll kind of keep you thinking and talking after you leave our program. So hopefully that'll be the case today. Thank you so much for being here and your continued support of the OC Forum. And before we get started, I just want to take a moment to do some thank yous. So first, I'd like to thank the OC Forum Board of Directors. They work really hard to make sure that these programs are amazing and relevant to you. If there are board members in the audience, and I know there are some of you, if you could stand, please, and be recognized, that would be great. I'd also like to take a minute to acknowledge and express our gratitude to our partners who make these events possible. So a special thank you to all of our ongoing OC Forum sponsors. We appreciate you so much, and we really couldn't do these without you. Special thanks to UCI and UCI Health, our title sponsor for our 5th consecutive year, UCI. Today, I'd also like to give a very special thank you and recognize our partnership with the Angels Baseball Organization, without whom this event wouldn't be possible. And although he's traveling right now, I really want to recognize our board member, Jim Panetta, who worked very hard on this event. Also, David Newman, who is in the house today and is helping on this event. So thank you so much to the Angels organization. All right, now we've got something special today. All of you should see on your table that we have a QR code, and you probably saw it in your pre-arrival notes, and you probably saw when you walked through the door. We have a special opportunity drawing today with some awesome prizes. So I just want to quickly go over those prizes in case you missed them on the way in. So did anybody see last week Disneyland's having a little birthday? 70th anniversary of Disneyland. We've got a great Disneyland package. With 2 two-day park hopper tickets, VIP viewing for one of our nighttime spectaculars, and a great merch basket. So that's one of our awesome prizes. Second, do we have any Mike Trout fans in the audience? All right, we've got a great Mike Trout package that features an autographed baseball, bobblehead, and Angels hat. And what about Logan O'Hoppe? Any fans of Logan? All right. We've got an awesome Logan O'Hoppe package. So go ahead and use the opportunity drawing QR code that's on your table. We will be doing that exciting drawing before you leave today. So, all right, now it's here. It's time for what you came for, which is our program. And I'm really excited and thankful to have the opportunity to introduce today's moderator. So Trent Rush is a broadcaster for the Angels. He's in his 11th season as a team reporter, pre- and post-game host, and play-by-play for games. He's also a national play-by-play announcer for Fox Sports and a baseball analyst for Fox 11 in Los Angeles. He's an Orange County native, so one of our own. He attended Orange Lutheran High School, Chapman University, and he's a lifelong fan of our Angels. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Trent Rush.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here with all of you this afternoon. You guys are here on a really important week for Angels baseball. We got a week to go before the trade deadline. The Angels in the thick of the wild card race, coming off a road trip back east, and now you got Seattle and Texas in town. It's like, my goodness, this is a very busy time for Angels baseball. And the busiest person of all certainly is not me. It is the man that's going to be joining us now, a man that has been with the Angels since the 2021 season, started in the front office as the director of player personnel, then next year got moved down to the dugout to be the bench coach for the Halos, a role that he had up until the end of June this season when he took over as the interim manager of the Angels. Ray Montgomery previously was with baseball operations, both for the Diamondbacks and the Brewers. Back in the day, started in the front office as a scout, busy scouting Mike Trout on the backfields in New Jersey, trying to find him somewhere. And also, I have a fun fact for you about this. Our guest today played for the winningest program in college baseball history. Do you know this? It's not UCLA. It's not like LSU. It's none of those schools in the SEC. No, that would be Fordham University with over 4,500 wins. Yes. Now, they started playing baseball. Fordham was a part of the second collegiate baseball game ever played. So there is that. But Ray Montgomery, I think maybe the pride of Fordham University baseball, and he joins us now. Please welcome the manager of the Angels, Ray Montgomery. That's pretty good. There we go. Ray, this is exciting. And first of all, thank you for being with us, because I just had an East Coast road trip and now spending some time with us, getting set to begin a 13-game homestand. I want to start with this because I've always just kind of wanted to know, what's it like being a big league manager?
I keep using the expression. First of all, thanks for having me. It's all blame, no credit now. When I was in the number 2 seat, it was actually a lot easier. I would just give suggestions. Nobody knew about them. Nobody in this room knew about them. They would go by the boards, and whatever Wash did was whatever Wash did. So it's been good. The guys have been good. It's obviously not a good situation to have inherited it this way, and Wash is doing good, and we're happy about that. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. Now, let's get into that a little bit, because when you're the bench coach, I think there's probably that may be a position just in coaching in general and sports in general. I think a lot of fans maybe don't fully understand the role of the bench coach and how much like managing that is and the decision making that ends up happening there. So what's the transition like when you're, having that bench coach role position you had for a number of years and then being the guy ultimately calling the shots?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and for those who aren't familiar, there's a lot of inner workings that go on in the dugout on any given day, a lot of preparation, all that stuff. So for me, that hasn't changed. I think the difference is in the final decision making. Obviously, I joke about the blame and no credit. It does speak to having a staff obviously prepared in case of something like this. It also speaks of the synergy you need in there to have people who can take over. We've had people adjust. Ryan Goings is now doing my old job. I said it takes 3 to do it. Took 1 prior. But you do have to have it sort of in place, because you don't want to miss any beats, right? You don't want to miss any steps, because the product on the field and the players, the games are going to continue on.
Yeah, and they do. And so far, you got this Angels ball club right here in the mix. I know we all were hoping things would go a little differently in New York. Maybe we could have gotten a little better strike zone in New York. I'll say it so Ray doesn't have to.
Too soon.
I know. I'm sorry. But I mean, here you are managing this club with a ton of talent, where you guys have made so much progress from a year ago, hanging around in this wild card race. Just to describe kind of what this feeling is like right now, having this team at this moment in time with this organization clearly on the rise.
Yeah, I think I would throw it out to the room. I think if we left spring training and we said that when we got near the trade deadline that we'd be in this position, I would assume that the fans and the people would be appreciative of that and happy that we're in this situation. New York didn't go as well as we would have hoped, and the strike zone aside. I think we've raised the bar. I think internally we had the bar there. I think externally people are now seeing a result of what's gone on over the last 3 or 4 years. I was in a place prior where it took about 9 years to really get it to where it is now, and you're seeing what the Brewers are doing, in and out. It takes time. It takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of luck. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of support. But the biggest thing is all you want to have when you get to July and August is meaningful games. And I think these next 7 are going to be very.
Ray, you and I were just talking backstage a moment ago. I hadn't realized until then that you had scouted Mike Trout back in your early days in your front office career, back when he was a high school junior. That's amazing to me, to go from that to now being a skipper in the major leagues. And I mean, certainly is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, a 3-time MVP, 11-time All-Star. So what's the relationship like with Mike Trout? And just maybe what can you share with us about that?
Yeah, it's probably one of the unique things, aside from having been with him for the last 5 years. I think if anybody would have come into this situation, and everybody has had that in their organizations where people are added or subtracted, um, but there's an importance of having the relationship piece with the people you have in house to begin with, and then when you add to me for this room, it's Mike Trout, 3-time MVP. I remember watching Mike run around sandy beach fields in South Jersey. We call it Philly, but um, so for me, he's just Mike, and I get the privilege of actually watching what he does day in and day out. To obviously uphold what he has created in terms of one of the best players in the history of the game. But the familiarity, the personal relationship, and stuff, I think it made it easy for him and them in this transition, and I think we're seeing that.
I have a lot of Angels questions, and we're going to get to some of those. But I know that a lot of people in this room are maybe not just Angels fans, but baseball fans, and may want to know your perspective on your days of being a scout. And when you're seeing a young talent like Mike Trout, did it ever cross your mind at any point on those sandy fields in Philly that Mike Trout was going to be a Hall of Fame baseball player?
Oh, of course, yeah. We had the next pick, so I'd like everybody in the room to know that we were taking him, regardless of what the rumors that they say out there. No, I think anybody that's in the game, player, front office, scout, I think you guys know as fans when you're watching the game, you're all scouting. Everybody scouts the games as you watch them. I know everybody had some probably opinions on some of the decisions we've made, right? That's scouting too. I take the blame for those as well. But you're doing that even as a player, and I played for a long time prior to even getting into the front office. So it's just part of it. You're evaluating situations, talent, people. I didn't set out with the track, of any one particular track. When I got done playing, I just needed the next opportunity. And I think that's been something that's been in the game now. We spend a lot more time doing with people who come through our system, and we develop them for post-playing careers. And I think I'm a pretty good example of that.
I did a poor job in the introduction. I failed to mention Ray Montgomery also played parts of 3 seasons with the Houston Astros. How valuable do you feel like was your time playing in pro ball, playing in the major leagues, helped you now maybe kind of understand what the guys are going through when you're making decisions?
Oh, for sure. For those that don't know, I had really good season tickets when I played in the big leagues. Parts of 3 seasons, I got about 100 at bats. So I appreciate you making that out to be more.
Parts of 3 seasons. That's the truth.
Yes, very small parts. But the experiential piece, I think, is what relates. So I've been through a lot of situations. I was able to play for a long time in AAA, and you do see a lot of the business side and the professional side of what goes through, everybody, what happens transactionally every day. So I think that helps. Do I think it's a necessity to be good at, a post-playing career? No, I don't. I think people have shown that there's any number of ways you can look at the game and attack the game and be successful in it.
You know what I found interesting? So when you first came here, I remember talking with Perry about just the fact that he wanted to have just a real baseball man in his front office, a guy that probably should be on the field, the guy that should be around the team, but he wanted you upstairs where you had to go wear in professional business attire every single day. Now, it only took a year for you to be right back in the dugout, but in that time, what were some of the things that you felt like you were able to bring to a front office when it's more than just decisions that are happening in the moment on the field, but from a more holistic sense, and from developing the minor leagues and just the bigger picture of what goes into a major league organization?
Well, I think you touched on a few of them. These are great questions because you answered them before, so it's nice. But when you come into any organization, you're trying to create sort of maybe what the Angels had prior. I can tell you all, after 15 years in Milwaukee and 5 in Arizona, the Angels were sort of literally the organization that we tried to emulate in the other places I've been. The way they ran the bases, their identity, how they handled situations, they were sort of the gold standard. So coming back over here with Perry, I think that was part of the idea, was that, hey, we're going to get that back. We're going to recreate what worked. We're going to try to add a new spin on it. The game changes. You can't stay rooted in the past. You definitely want to use what works, but you can't just say that this is how we're going to do it, right? And that, unfortunately, takes time. And when you come in and you want to put your stamp on things, you have to be really careful. And I've learned this in other places. There are a lot of good people that are in bad situations, potentially. Not that this was, but I've been in places that were far worse. And you have to make sure you sift through that take what works, add what you think might help, and then you just really have to be patient and super, super like aggressive going forward with your plan and just literally have no stopping to get to that point.
It's interesting to hear. I mean, so you have the background in Milwaukee and Perry, whether it be from Toronto to being in Atlanta, and we all saw what he was able to help build to help the Braves win the World Series in 2021. What were some of the things that maybe you were able to take from that time that you're now kind of able to put in place here with this Angels organization?
Well, I think certainly some of the acquisitional stuff helps because listen, the players have enough on their plate just playing the game. It's the most difficult game on the planet. There's nobody going to convince me otherwise. So their focus needs to be there. Unfortunately, the business reality of what's going on is you're dealing with people and their lives and their livelihoods and their families. And you guys see the transaction page and people are going up and down, AAA, AA. Where are those places? What do they mean? There are real people affected by all that. And, having been through that for years, again, I go back to the experiential piece, both sides playing, living it. And the secondary piece is now delivering that news to people who then have to make the adjustments. And oh, by the way, you're still asked to perform when you're here, no matter what the role, whether you're an everyday player with all the people you're most familiar with or somebody that comes up and down and touches the team for just a brief time.
I think maybe more so than just the baseball perspective of all this, we're in a room of some of the best and brightest business leaders in Orange County. And here you are leading this Angels organization from your seat as the manager. What are some of the most important things you feel like as a leader of this group that you want to try to bring to the table every day?
I think every day sort of presents a different situation. I try not to get too high, too low. Yesterday with standing, obviously there are situations where the game gets away from the umpire, and he needs to be reminded of that. Um, I'm sure everybody feels the same, right? I mean, come on, that was egregious. But um, I think the nature of this game relative to maybe say like football or some of the, the other sports is we have to do it every day. We were in Philadelphia and New York last week. We're back in Orange County now. We're playing Seattle. We were playing. So everything changes on a daily basis. So for me, I feel my responsibility with these guys is to provide a stability in terms of how we prepare, what we do to make sure that these guys know every day this is what to expect. It's sort of like being on the wheel, and in the same breath, there are times when you have to, like, push them off that wheel because we can get mired in sort of our own, how we feel about a given day. So for me, I just try to remain, "Hey, this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. Let's not get too overreactionary to, a two-game win streak or a four-game losing streak. It's just part of what we do."
I've asked this question to a lot of college basketball coaches and a few college football coaches, and I've gotten a wide variety of answers. Nobody really wants to get thrown out of a game. I know a couple people, a couple basketball coaches I've worked with actually have wanted to, but it's rare. Something like that, is that frustration, or is there maybe a little bit more to it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have a unique opportunity that I'm allowed to voice my displeasure. I'm sure people in the room have displeasure, probably not in your best interest to voice it like I did. Um, but I do think there's sort of strategic elements to it at times. Guys that have been doing this longer than I understand that there are times where you have to represent your players or motivate them different. Quite frankly, there's just times when you have to defend your players because the stakes are high. The situation you see, we see it every night. Games change at this level on decisions that are minute in the real world. So when something like that happens, I'm not going to back away from the fact that it's nice to be able to unload and get rid of some frustrations, maybe from some prior games. And Eric is going to have to wear that, which he did. So I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm glad you said that because again, I think that I've never been in your seat. I don't really know, but it does seem like there is more nuance to that than maybe some people realize. When you talk about again the leadership perspective of being the manager, and you were talking before about some of those tough conversations that you have to have in baseball. I'm sure you've been a part of many long before you were a skipper, but when you have to deliver news, whether it be good news or bad news, the players riding, sometimes we call it the Salt Lake Shuttle, going back and forth to AAA all the time. What are some of those conversations like, and maybe how do you attack some of those?
Yeah, listen, the biggest thing for me is everybody knows what the situation is, right? They're not coming in and being told something they didn't expect or they weren't quite aware of. I'm going to be 56 years old in August, so my memory is not quite as good as it was. So I take the approach that I have to keep telling people the truth, as unfortunate as that can be and sometimes painful. I've had people on the game who had different approaches to doing that. Jerry Hunsiker was our GM in Houston when I got sent out because I was doing so well. And I didn't think that made the most sense. And he was actually kind of kidding with me. He said, listen, you're going to have, success in your limited opportunities, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. And I always appreciated that because I knew what kind of player I was, and these guys do too. And I'm not going to give them something that makes them feel better because I know they're being sent out because they have to go down and improve on something. They have to do something different in order to maintain their status here.
Let's get into this ball club for a moment and where you guys are at. We all can see the standings. We've seen where this team was a year ago, what they're doing now. Who are some of the pieces that have been fun to be around, fun to watch their development and their progress that have maybe kind of jumped out to you this season?
It might be easier just to ask if anybody wants to hear about anybody in particular.
Okay.
I could drone on about everybody, but I know you guys probably have thoughts and people you're curious of. If anybody has anybody. Yeah, Zach. Okay, so there you go. Good example. And a guy, and we've done some things maybe that are non-traditional in the history of the game, kind of like I was talking about how you do things different based on your situation. From the day he arrived here, and those who have watched him understand, this guy knows that he is very much belonging of being in the big leagues. Some guys don't have that right away. Some guys need to go to the minor leagues, and they need to refine some of their skills. Zach didn't need that. He was one of the guys that the advanced placement, if you will, and coming here and succeeding. And we're just scratching the surface now. We've seen him do things last year that, quite honestly, haven't been done at that position here, and not just with the Angels in the game. I think the one thing that when I look at him playing the position and the demands of being a shortstop at the major league level, he shows up every day. He gets his work done every day. There is no highs, no lows. You'll see the emotional stuff. That's just because he's from Miami. He can't help that. But the talent and the play and the work and the energy, that comes every day. And he knows he's very good at what he does.
Zach's a beauty. You have one?
Yeah, where's Logan O'Hoppe in his maturation as a catcher on this team and really against his peers?
Yeah, that's a really good one given the demands of the position. So we start with that, right? You hear it. What we ask guys to do at the major league level behind the plate far exceeds anything I think anybody could ever in their minds imagine, myself included. And the demands of the changes to that position. Again, there could be some changes to the balls and strike calls, which would have been great yesterday, but they're not here yet. But I joke, but Logan was a high school sign. So he was not a collegiate catcher who got the experience perhaps of a higher level prior to entering professional baseball. So game planning, right? He's responsible for 13. If it was, if we only used 13 pitchers on any given year, that's never the case. So he's responsible for 20, 25 different personalities and people who are in control of the game. He has to give more than anybody in the room because quite frankly, everything begins and ends with him and the pitcher's relationship. Add to that he's one of the unique characters who brings the offensive side at a high level too, which he makes look fairly easy at times. But the work that goes into that is only duplicated by what he has to do on defense. So when you start putting all that together and you look around the history of the game and Mike Scioscia and the Boones and those folks, we all know those names, but it's not coincidental that their best years came later. Right? Everybody's shaking their heads because they need the experience. They have to go through these learning stages, emotional, whatever you want to call it. But all of it's to gain the fruit of the labor later. And I look at Veritek was a guy I remember very specifically. We had a young catcher in Milwaukee, Jonathan LaCroix. The very first game that he caught in the major leagues, a veteran pitcher was pitching to him. And this kind of things happens, and it's just part of the nature of the business. At the end of the game, he's like, I'm never pitching that guy again. This is his first go-round, first game he's caught in the big leagues, and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. He's like, he doesn't know what he's doing. And it's like, well, neither did you when you started. Yeah. So I think Logan, where he is for me, and I have the benefit of experience of watching guys like him over the years develop from that position and that age, is in a really good spot. It's just not always going to be as consistent as we would like.
Right, along some of those kind of lines. So this group, it's unique, and we all know the Angels have been an organization that has been quick to promote players, mostly college players that have come from the draft. But Nolan Shonable spent 40 days in the minor leagues. Zach Neto, half a season. Christian Moore, basically half a season or a little more than that before he gets up to the big league level. There have been several players that have made it to the big leagues rather quickly. And in some ways, it's like the Angels have taken the approach of we're going to continue to develop at the major league level. And I think anybody that's watching this team can see it from last year to this year. What's that like, especially compared to when you were coming up, to maybe what's happening now when you're continuing that development at this level? How different is that developing here versus in the minor leagues?
Well, the simple answer is it didn't happen then. Not to the extent that it happens now. There was the Pete Incavillas and the guys like that, for those who remember those names, went straight from college to the big leagues, never missed a beat. I played with, well, one who's very close to the people here, Bobby Bray, who was a AAA MVP back in the day and didn't get a call up in September. If you were to have that conversation now, that a AAA most valuable player in the entire AAA league didn't even get a promotion in September, people would think you're crazy. Now, that said, when you have a guy like Neto and Shanwell, who you mentioned, and he comes here, Minnesota actually did something funny on their board when they said, hey, Nolan Shanwell, he went to UC, where we went, FAU down in Florida. He goes, bear with us. We don't know anything about him. He's only been here for 3 hours, I give Nolan all the credit in the world because he was able to not only handle the inexperience, and obviously there's a tremendous amount of pressure just to perform at this level on your best day, but to learn and go through the learning curves and hoops and mistakes that he made. And they were small, inconsequential to the group and when you're watching, but there's still mistakes that need to be fixed. And he still makes them now. But again, I joked with a friend of mine in New York that, they're guys that they selected in the draft are making these mistakes in Double-A, and they don't even have to see them. They're just glad that they're behind them. So we can deal with that a little bit, because on the other side of it, which is what we're starting to see with Nolan, Zach, and I give Joe Adell a ton of credit, you're starting to see the fruits of that labor, and it's really exciting going forward.
That's been one of the fun things, honestly, for me. I mean, again, yeah, I'm a broadcaster for the team, but I'm a fan too. Watching these guys, Joe has been how far he has come from when he came up in 2020 to where he is now is amazing. Ray, you got a lot going on today. We're going to get you down to the dugout, get you back to the office here in a minute. But first, before we do that, just wanted to get a sense of the group, the guys, the spirit of this team. What are some of your takeaways just from being around this core that's now starting to be together, kind of year 2 of being together?
Yeah, I'll start with the word you just used. I think we now have a core. I would say this to the group, as I said it to our players in spring training. This is the best core group that I've been around in the 5 years that I've been here. And it wasn't necessarily only talent driven. The personalities, the people, the passion with which they came to the yard every day, and quite frankly, the way they interacted with each other. We had a feeling in spring training, and again, I'm not going to overstate it. I didn't think we were going to win 100 games. But I thought we would be more competitive than the industry probably thought. And that was a reflection of the guys who we brought in, plus the core that was now developing. Anytime you sign a free agent, of the magnitude of a Kikuchi, you have to be concerned about how that's going to interact with the group. And he actually landed, with so much runway and took to it. And he helped our young core on the mound with the Sorianos and the guys like that. And then I think it sort of permeated itself into the bullpen too, because for those that know, we ask a lot of some young guys down there, and we lost Ben Joyce and Stevenson, obviously coming back from injury. So the core for me is what is here now, and I think the fact that they have now cemented themselves as that, again, not perfect, but certainly on the right trajectory, I think is exciting.
Well, Ray, we can't thank you enough for the time being here today. Can we give a round of applause? Angels manager Ray Montgomery.
Thank you.
All right, Ray, let's go get a win tonight. Go ahead, let's
do it.
All right,
I'll try to stay in the go.
much. All right, there goes Ray Montgomery. Again, my name is Trent. You can catch me after the game tonight. So when you're driving home, Angels Radio AM 830. Would love to have a conversation with you on the way back. So enjoy your lunch, and thanks again for having us.